Hare Krishna Prabhu, I think the microphone is switched off.
Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astotar Sata Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astotar Sata Shri Srimad Bhakti Saranta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sagaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinatha Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jamuna Devi Ki Jai. Gangamai Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I think so. Thank you, Prabhu.
All right, no one wrote the verse. So collect phones. I have two.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya. Okay. Narayanam Namaskritya. Naram Chaiva Narotamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaparesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. We'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 9, Text 35.
Usually what we do is we do word by word from the transliteration.
Okay.
And you chant the verse.
Okay. Sa, tha, tva,
Actually, it's two.
no, tu, atma yonihi.
You do it from the transliteration.
Oh, I see.
How we pronounce it.
I see. Atmisvita, asrito, jam, kalena, tivra, tapasa, parushuddha, bhava, tvam, atmanisha, bhuvi, gandham, ivati suksmam, bhutendriyas shayame, vititam, dadarsha, satwatma yoyor atish, Brahmasamhita? Satwatma yoni ativishmita ashritobhyam kalena tivra tapasa parishuddha bhava Tvam atmanisha bhuvigantam ivati sukshmam. Bhutendriyasya yayame vitatam dudarsha. Satvatmayonir ativishmita ashritobjam. Kalena tivra tapasa parishuddha bhava. Tvam atmanisha bhuvigandham ivati shukshmam. Bhutendriyasha yayame vitatam tadarsha. Satvatmayonir ativishmita ashritobjam. Kalena tivra tapasa parishuddha bhava. Tvam atmanisha bhuvigandham ivati sukshmam. Bhutendriyasha yayame vitatam tadarsha. Satvatmayoni atiti vishamashlobjam.
Kalena tivra tapasa parishuddha bhavaha. Kalena tivra tapasa parishuddha bhavaha. Vamatmanisha bhuvigandham ivati sukshmam. Vamatmanisha bhuvigandham ivati sukshmam. Bhutendriyasya yamaye vitatam dadarsha.
Bhutendriyasya yashame vitatam dadarsha. Kalena tivra tapasa parishuddha bhava. Tvam atmanisha bhuvigandham ivati shukshmam. Bhutendriyasha yayame vitatam tadarsha. Satvatmayoni atitishmita ashritobjam. Kalena tivra tapasa parishuddha bhava. Tvam atmanisha bhuvigandham ivati sukshmam. Bhutendriyasha yayame vitatam tadarsha. Satvatmayoni atiti vishmatashritobjam. Kalena tivra tapasa parishuddha bhava. Tvam atmanisha bhuvigandham ivati shukshmam. Bhutendriyasha yayame vitatam dadarsha. Is anyone online to chant?
Satvatmayonir ativishmita ashritobjam.
Satvatmayoni. That's amazing.
Kalena tivra tapasa parishuddha bhavaha.
Kalena tivra tapasa parishuddha bhavaha.
Tvam manisha bhuvi gandham ivati sukshmam.
Evam.
Bhutendriya shayamaye vitatam dadarsha.
Bhutendriyasha yayame vitatam tadarsha. Amazing. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for attending online.
You're welcome, Prabhu.
Jai. Saha. He, Lord Brahma. Two. But. Atma Yonihi, who is born without a mother, directly begotten by the Father, Lord Vishnu. Ati Vishmita, very much surprised, not finding the source of his birth. Ashritaha, situated on. Abjam, the lotus. Kalena, in due course of time. Tivra tapasa, by severe austerities. Parishuddha bhavaha, being completely purified. Tvam, you. Atmani, in his body and existence. Isha, O my Lord. Bhuvi, within the earth. Gandham, aroma. Eva, like. Ati, shukshmam, very subtle. Bhuta indriya, composed of elements and senses. Ashaya maye, and that filled with desires, the mind. Vitatam, spread out. The darsha, found. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Lord Brahma, who is celebrated as Atma Yoni, having been born without a mother, was struck with wonder. Thus he took shelter of the lotus flower, and when he had been purified after undergoing severe austerities for many hundreds of years, he could see that the cause of all causes, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was spread throughout his own body and senses, just as aroma, although very subtle, is perceived in the earth. Purport. Here, the statement of self-realization, aham brahmasmi, which is interpreted by the Mayavad philosophy to mean I am the Supreme Lord, is explained. The Supreme Lord is the original seed of everything, janmadyasya yataha. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matha sarvam pravartate. Thus, the Supreme Lord extends everywhere, even throughout our bodies, because our bodies are made of material energy, which is the Lord's separated energy. One should realize that since the Supreme Lord spreads throughout one's body, and since the individual soul is a part of the Supreme Lord, everything is Brahman, sarvam kalvidam Brahma. This realization was achieved by Lord Brahma after he was purified, and it is possible for everyone. When one is completely in knowledge of aham brahmasmi, he thinks, I am part of the Supreme Lord. My body is made of his material energy, and therefore I have no separate existence. Yet although the Supreme Lord is spread everywhere, he is different from me. This is the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. An example given in this regard is that the aroma within the earth is that of the aroma within the earth. In the earth there are aromas and colors, but one cannot see them. Actually, we find that when flowers grow from the earth, they appear with different colors and aromas, which they have certainly gathered from the earth, although in the earth we cannot see them. Similarly, the Supreme Lord, by his different energies, spreads throughout one's body and soul, although we cannot see him. An intelligent man, however, can see the Supreme Lord existing everywhere. Adantarasta paramanu, chayantarastam. The Lord is within the universe and within the atom by his different energies. This is the real vision of the Supreme Lord for the intelligent man. Brahma, the first created being, became the most intelligent person by his tapasya, austerity, and thus he came to this realization. We must therefore take all knowledge from Brahma, who became perfect by his tapasya. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Swaparantikam Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prishtai Bhutale Shri Mate Vaishesha Kadasari Kariti Namane Nama Praharsha Shilaya Prabhu Paranusarine Anindita Hare Tasmai Shastri Bhajana Chorine Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prishtai Bhutale Shri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shanyavari Pasyate Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhobe Evacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you all so much for allowing me to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam today, and for the embarrassing opportunity to pronounce Sanskrit in front of Dravida Prabhu. Actually, Suvarna Bindu Prabhu taught me it's actually Sanskrit. Yeah, but the American tongue tends to say Sanskrit. So thank you for allowing me to speak. No, if you could please enlighten me. Perfectly composed. Wow. Unlike myself, this is my first Bhagavatam class I've given, and hopefully it's not my last, by all of your mercy. Hare Krishna. The Supreme Lord is present everywhere. Pretty simple to understand. It's not completely unique to our philosophy. Pretty much every religious tradition understands this. And so it's not so difficult to understand. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives us many opportunities to see how that's the case for people on different levels. In particular, he says, Rasohamap Sukunteya Prabhasmi Shashi Suryayo Pranava Sarva Vedeshu Shubdake Purasham Rishu. That actually I'm the light of the sun and the moon. I'm the taste of water. I'm the sound in ether, the Vedic syllable Om, and I'm even the ability in man. I'm the reason you're able to actually do anything, including subtle things like thinking, stuff like that. So Krishna is kind of giving this concession for the neophyte to appreciate him and understand him and see him within his various energies. So in this way, anyone can approach this concept of the Lord being anywhere. He's even within the atom, as mentioned in the purport, like pearls strung on a thread. We all have these kuntimala on, and although they're filled with tulsi beads, we can't see the thread. But because we have some intelligence, we're 99% sure it's there. We can make a very reasonable conclusion that it's there. So in the same way, although we may not be able to see Krishna with our blunt material senses, with a little bit of intelligence, we can perceive his presence everywhere. So as Kshiradakshai Vishnu, he's present within the atom, but he's also present within the heart. We call this Paramatma. Prabhupada nicely translates this as the Supreme Soul or the Super Soul, which is really easy to understand when you have a term like that. Upadrashtanu mantacha bharta bhokta maheshwara paramatmeti chapyukto dehismin purusha paraha. That actually, with even a little more introspection, it's pretty clear as well to see that there is another within the body, another factor which is sanctioning, it's allowing things to happen, it's overseeing and permitting. This verse is saying that this is the Lord. This is Krishna. He's present within all of our hearts personally. And most religions also have a concept of this too, of some sort of omnipresent feature of the Lord. Although obviously we know in the Vaishnava understanding it goes further as well into Bhagavan. That beyond just this Paramatma feature, Krishna exists personally in his own abode as a person. So just with a little bit of intelligence and introspection, we can actually see that, how am I moving my arms? How am I thinking? How am I really accomplishing anything with this material body that I'm situated in? And basically, it's working on the function of desire. We propose, and God is disposing, based on our karma. It doesn't take too much, pious credit to be able to move your arms or anything like that. So we can do so many things by the sanction and the will of the Lord. And there is an important distinction, though, of course, between the soul, the minute particle of Krishna, and the Supreme Soul. So self-realization, it begins with this understanding that we're not these bodies. We may all be very familiar with this, but most people are still kind of grappling with this concept. But it's incredibly important, because everyone's activities is striving to be happy. That's why we're doing everything here, because we want to be happy. Obviously, we want to please Krishna, but our happiness is also a factor. And when we maybe go out, we distribute books, we'll show people the nice picture of the changing bodies. We'll show them, you see, actually reincarnation isn't such a mystical concept. We're experiencing it imperceptibly, moment to moment. But through the course of one's lifetime, one can clearly see there's something peculiar taking place. See, the body is always changing, but there is something which has some continuity. And most people can, kind of grasp this on a fundamental level. That's why it's the first thing we teach. It's the first thing Krishna teaches in the Bhagavad Gita. It's practically half of what Srila Prabhupada would preach on, this crucial subject. And yeah, it's what we teach people even on the streets, even the most casual person. We can teach this to them, and generally they can understand it. But maybe not fully or to the point of realization, obviously. So even the Mayavad philosopher, actually, they understand this as well. They understand, I wouldn't say understand, but they know of Bhagavan, Paramatma, Brahman. But their ladder is kind of upside down. They're thinking Bhagavan, Paramatma, they're a manifestation of Brahman, while the Vaishnava conception is actually the other way around. So it's typical of Mayavad because it's atheism guised under the Vedic literature. So even they know this, but unfortunately they can't tell the difference between the individual soul, the Atma, and the Paramatma. And there's a few reasons for this. The main one I would probably point out is that this Mayavad tendency is offensive to the Lord. And there's a way in which the Lord actually has he has the right to withhold himself. He is not obligated to reveal himself just to anyone. So if one is making offenses to the Lord, Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavritaha mudho yo na vijanati lokamam ajam avyayam. That those who are foolish, unintelligent, especially those who are making such offenses, they're covered over by Krishna's illusory potency. Therefore, they don't know that he's infallible, unborn. They think he's just a product, his appearance is just a product of this material energy. So many people will say, okay, well, if there is God, show me God. Please show me God. Where is God? But actually, these people, especially with this attitude, they're not actually qualified to perceive Krishna. They're not actually qualified to see God. There are certain qualifications one has to obtain for Krishna to reveal himself, because he's not obligated to reveal himself to anyone. He actually reserves full right to remain unmanifest to the foolish and unintelligent. So people, they're trying to ascertain the absolute truth with their limited material senses, their mind, but they won't accept the authority of Scripture. Which, although you shouldn't accept something blindly, the Vedic literature is unique in the way that it actually provides an epistemology and a means to realize what the Scripture is saying. So we can't remain armchair philosophers forever and just speculate on the absolute truth. We have to enter into the laboratory and actually perform these experiments, mainly chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we have to have a certain attitude in approaching the Lord. So here in the purport, I believe Prabhupada says, Lord Brahma, he became perfect in knowledge, or he gained his intelligence from his tapasya. That he became perfect by his tapasya. So it's not just any tapasya that Lord Brahma was performing. Tapo divyam, it's divine service. This devotional service to the Lord, this is the means of actually understanding him and seeing something as simple as his presence within our body. You know, something to us it seems very simple to understand. But unless you perform some divine austerity, we won't actually be able to gain entry into deeper realization of such concepts. Therefore, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam prittipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. That one who is engaged in this devotional service, Krishna is very happy to give them the intelligence by which they can understand him. It's a simple method. Maybe you don't believe in God, but if there is a God, what is the way to gain his attention, to gain his favor? Well, certainly if you try to please that person, whether you even believe in the existence of God or not, this is the method of attaining this connection with Krishna. So therefore, we encourage everyone, even in the neophyte stage, perform some devotional service, even if it's very small, even if it's just hearing and chanting, which is actually the foundation of our devotional service in Krishna consciousness. But if one doesn't get this opportunity for devotional service, usually it's because of Bhogaishvarya Prasaktanam. Bhogaishvarya Prasaktanam Taipaharita Chetasam Vyavasayatmika Buddhi Samadho Navatiyate. That there's still too much attached to material enjoyment and opulence, and therefore, this resolute determination for devotional service doesn't take place. It's because there's no real sincerity. And after all, Krishna, he's actually reciprocating with our sincerity. He's reciprocating with our desires, that is, on a very, very deep level. It's not that we were forced into this situation. We got ourselves here in the material world. And it's because Krishna, he's always trying to fulfill our desires. So the reason we don't have this intelligence to understand him is because actually we don't want to understand God. We actually don't want to see Krishna. And this is our issue, is that Krishna is very nice and he's reciprocating with our desires. But our desires aren't so pure, which is my misfortune. So he's reciprocating with our desires, and because the soul is Satchit Ananda, naturally we're eternal and we're full of knowledge. We have complete knowledge of who we are, of Krishna, our relationship with Krishna. The soul's pure state is like a diamond just covered over in its conditioned state by muck, by dirt. The diamond is still there, still has all of its inherent qualities, but it just can't fully express them. So deep down at our core, the essence of the soul is full of knowledge. We know our constitutional position, but right now it's quite difficult to see. The mirror is covered over with lots of dust. And although we know about our position, we know our position with Krishna, because we have these material desires, in order for us to properly enjoy those material desires, our intelligence has to become bewildered. Because if we had full intelligence, we wouldn't even think to enjoy Krishna's energy without serving him with it. We would just take what we need for ourselves. Ishavasyam idam sarvam. We would just see everything belongs to the controller, everything belongs to Krishna. But because we have these material desires, the only way to enjoy that with some sort of peace of mind is to be put in some forgetfulness, is to have our intelligence bewildered. And therefore Krishna bewilders our intelligence in order to fulfill our desires, our material desires. So we also have to perform some austerity, and pretty much our austerity is 16 plus 4. We chant our 16 rounds every day, good rounds, great rounds if possible. We follow the 4 regulative principles. very strictly, and we can realize practically that the process for self-realization in this age is Harinama. We don't have to do some severe austerities in a cave for thousands of years as if that's even possible. But by these simple things, by chanting Krishna's holy names, this will purify our intelligence. And by purification of the intelligence, we can make space in between us and the false ego, which we are tightly bound to, very, very imperceptibly. It's the most subtle material attachment we have. Even as we're advancing in Krishna consciousness, we have to continually be reminded that we're not these bodies, that we're eternal spirit souls, that we're servants of Krishna, because our connection with the false ego is just too strong. But fortunately, we do have the process given by Srila Prabhupada and the previous acharyas. We chant Hare Krishna, and in this way, we can connect with Krishna internally through Paramatma and also externally, and gain real intelligence and gain real spiritual knowledge. So yeah, we can also purify the intelligence by being really fixed in the order of the spiritual master, by holding that order deep within our heart. This will also work to purify the intelligence and thus distancing ourselves and purifying the false ego. And so we engage in this Sankirtan movement for our purification and the purification of others. And this way we can have proper intelligence by our austerity in Krishna consciousness to understand Krishna. So also it's mentioned our philosophy is Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva. And it's actually, although inconceivable compared to other things like pure dualism or monism, Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva actually makes a lot of sense, even to the layman, if just put some thought into it. So we all know the comparison of the sun being present everywhere, while it's still maintaining its localized feature, its original feature. The sun isn't diminished just because it's emanating rays of sun. And we're like the rays of that original sun. We are the energy of Krishna, and because we exist doesn't mean Krishna is diminished in any way. So again, although these things may be obvious to us now after chanting the holy names for some time, coming to the temple, worshiping the deity, taking so much prasadam, which is definitely how I'm able to realize any of this stuff. It's the mercy of Mahaprasadam. I don't know if anyone can relate on that. And we may try to explain these things to people, and they may or may not fully understand them. So therefore, it's our responsibility to actually engage them some way or other in the foundations of devotional service, starting with hearing and chanting, coming to the temple, taking part in the kirtan, introducing people to chanting japa, or even just this really nice program that you guys have, which I've always been really jealous of, your Krishna Lounge, right? Yeah. It's called Krishna Lounge. I've been maybe a couple times, and it's great. It's really amazing. These simple things we should really try to engage people in. Otherwise, they stand no chance of actually understanding these things and realizing its necessity. I was chanting japa this morning, and Mogalila Prabhu, he came up to me and said, "Hey, can you give the Bhagavatam class?" Just out of courtesy, and we're traveling through, so it's kind of like what you do. You ask like a guest, and I definitely don't feel whatsoever qualified. And like I mentioned, it's the first time giving a class on Srimad Bhagavatam in the morning. And although every part of me was saying, no, don't do it. I really don't want to do that. Another part of me was thinking, okay, it's a bit of a challenge. Eventually, I'll have to give a Bhagavatam class sometime.
And you realize there's hundreds of people on YouTube.
I really hope not. I really hope not. Hopefully, just Prabhu in where is he again?
Oh, he's in Portugal.
In Portugal. Hare Krishna Prabhu. And because in Los Angeles, you have to be second initiated to give Bhagavatam class. So I was like, all right, I've got many years to wait for that panic attack. So I thought, okay, might as well, give it a shot. So I'm chanting my japa, And, I realized I felt a little closer to the holy names in that moment, a little more attached to Krishna, because I actually had a feeling of, I really need you, because there's nothing, not my intelligence, my words, any abilities I supposedly have that can, save me in this situation, but, Krishna's mercy and the mercy of my spiritual master. So in that way, I was really praying. And yeah, Krishna reciprocates with that, because you have an intense desire, and therefore he's reciprocating with that intense desire. So the thing is, people are walking around in this world and they don't even know what they want. They don't know where happiness is. They don't know that actually everything that they're looking for, they're just looking for Krishna. They're looking for beautiful things, powerful things. They're looking for very intelligent things, and they want to acquire some knowledge. But actually, this is all just a perverted reflection of their search and their longing for Krishna. So if somehow or other we can stimulate that dormant desire, and we can develop a need in them for stimulate. Stimulate. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's right. I wish I was as poetic as you, Prabhu. So yeah, we need to stimulate this dormant desire, and they don't realize where to place this desire. But if we stimulate this need for spiritual knowledge and a connection with God, then actually Krishna will reciprocate with them. So somehow or other, with the congregational chanting of the holy names by book distribution, we can stimulate this dormant desire within the general populace at large, and get them wanting something, wanting Krishna, showing them that actually everything you're looking for, it's not here. You won't find it here. So of course, people have to be convinced that actually this world is suffering, and that the only way to find real happiness is to acknowledge our eternal relationship with Krishna, render some devotional service unto Krishna, service unto his devotees, and take part in this really amazing Sankirtan movement given to us by Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya. So I will end the class there. Thank you very much for all of your kind attention. And if there are any comments or questions or likely corrections, I'll be happy to respond to them. Hare Krishna.
Well, I don't think we need any corrections. I think you did very well. But just a realization I was having is that, generally you feel there's kind of two lines that are going on in your devotional service. There's your own desire to advance and so forth, but you know that you also have a responsibility to try to give Krishna consciousness to others, But there's a very important connection between those. If you understand that people, it's great, we're distributing all these books, but people, Bhagavad Gita is not an easy book to understand, especially the first time, But why do people take books? Why did they come to the temple and so forth? I know why I did when I first came. I was curious, but then I was attracted by the character of the people there. This was early days in Brooklyn, like 73, 72, late 72, And there were just a whole bunch of, devotees who are famous now. Bhardraj was there, all the artists were there. And the kirtans were great because, they had Bhardraj and Jai Satchinandan and some others, Vishnu Gada. And so, but mostly it was like the devotees, really reflected the things that they were talking about. The peacefulness, the joyfulness, the I don't know want to say beauty, but just the general attractiveness. And so that's really what, was an important part of my taking the next step, getting a book, and of course beginning to chant, on my own, a couple of rounds a day, and you start slow. But so then, if you just connect those two, you say, well, we have a desire to advance, but we should know that that's also the best way that we can attract others. So there's both elements are there, the preaching element as well as the personal desire to advance. And I think that, it's almost like Lord Chaitanya's two halves of, why he came. He has these two distinct motives, right? One is that he wanted to experience his own beauty from Radharani's point of view, and the famous verse, That's the internal reason. And the external reason is to preach Krishna consciousness. But there's an inevitable connection between those. Even Lord Chaitanya, the ecstasy and the just his own, when he was dancing and chanting in South India, that was so attractive to people. Of course, they were familiar with, some of the philosophy. But that's what just was so fascinating, and they became under the influence of Lord Chaitanya, and before, they're chanting and dancing, and others are being attracted. So it's an interesting connection that for serving Krishna, we have a responsibility to be ecstatic. But you can't really fake it, so you have to be genuine, and so that's the two sides of the thing work together. I was just thinking of that because I never heard you give class before, and obviously you hadn't given class, but the sincerity, the intelligence, was coming through, and it was, inspiring. And I think that you have a propensity for the Sanskrit. I can see that. Did you ever study Sanskrit before you went?
No, definitely not. But I get, help from devotees who run a Vinu Prabhu definitely helps me pronounce.
Yeah. Anyway, after class, maybe I can talk to you about it, because there's a whole realm of, you asked me what meter is it, Mm-hmm. And for me, the beat of the Sanskrit was one of the main attractions when I first started learning verses. That, what a language, there's and then the Sanskrit department was there. I'm in Brooklyn where they're producing and when the CC started to come out, well, these are all longer verses, how do you chant those, Yeah. So I asked them, and each one had a special meter, So I think you would be enlivened by that, to learn how to figure out the meter and all the different meters, So how long are you here?
I believe we're leaving after breakfast.
Oh my gosh, just see. Let's pit stop, huh? Anyway, we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Any other comments or reflections, questions? Okay, thank you very much.
I have a question.
Oh, yes, Prabhu.
But I can wait if a temple room devotee would like to go first.
No, Prabhu. The floor is yours. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, do you mind reciting again the two last sentences of the purport?
Oh, I'd be very happy to. Those were really great sentences. Let's see if I can find where the second one starts. Brahma. Brahma, the first created being, became the most intelligent person by his tapasya, austerity, and thus he came to this realization. We must therefore take all knowledge from Brahma, who became perfect by his tapasya.
Yes, those are the two sentences. Thank you very much, you're most kind. Prabhu, based on these two sentences, my question is, why does tapasya make us intelligent? And in other words, why does sense gratification make us dull and stupid?
That's a really great question, Prabhu. I briefly touched on it before, how we can, kind of see it as a matter of sincerity. If we're just trying to enjoy the energy of Krishna without Krishna, Krishna's very happy to reciprocate. He's very happy to fulfill that desire to some extent. I'm sure he also doesn't like it to some extent as well. But he reciprocates with that desire. And in order for us to enjoy matter, we have to have some diminished intelligence. Because if we had our full spiritual intelligence, we'd realize how foolish it is. And by performing some tapasya, sorry, Prabhu, can you repeat the last part of the question again?
The second part of my question is, in other words, why does sense gratification make us dull and stupid?
Yeah, we're distancing ourselves from our identity as Satchidananda. We're identifying further with matter. The false ego becomes inflamed and we become more attached to it. In order to enjoy matter, we have to associate and identify with it to some extent. So yeah, it's just that principle of sincerity not being there and Krishna reciprocating. Yes, Dravida Prabhu.
Just to expand on that a little bit. We know that Krishna explains there's this, when we try to enjoy the material world, then we come under the influence of Mahamaya. And she has these two potencies, Prakshept-atmaka and Avaranatmaka. So the Avaranatmaka is, as it sounds, it means covering. It covers our original knowledge. We're all originally in the spiritual world full of bliss and knowledge. But that's covered, and then she throws us into the realm of the material world where we can try to enact that hopeless imitation of Krishna, of trying to enjoy and dominate this world. So the beginning of our entrapment in the material world is this turning away from Krishna and looking to the material energy, the duality of material energy, with the idea to enjoy. And that's there in this famous verse where the origin of fear. Because as soon as we detach ourselves from Krishna, we're never really detached. He's there in the heart, but we don't know that. We forget. Bhayam vidiyabhanaveshitakshyad ishadapetasya viparyayo asmriti. It's all there in those two lines. This is how we get entangled. So fear, the origin of fear is when we become absorbed in the dualities of this world, of this dual world. You know, Krishna speaks about that, the illusion of duality, tesham, what is it? Near the end of the 7th chapter, Ichadvesha samutena dvandva mohena bharata. So Prabhupada described, this is how we came to the material world. Itcha, we desired to enjoy, and we became averse, dvesha, for serving Krishna. Samutena, from that arises the delusion of duality. This is enjoyable, this is not. You know, you become absorbed in that. That's the dvitiyabhanaveshita in the Bhagavatam verse. Vayam dvitiyabhanaveshita, we become absorbed in the duality of this material world. Ishadapetasya, turning away from the Isha, turning our back on Krishna, our face away. You know, Ishadapetasya, viparyayo asmriti. Everything becomes reversed. Instead of being the humble servant of the Lord, we try to be the master of the material energy. And asmriti, we forget. And you're forgetting. This is all Maya's influence. And that forgetfulness go on for eons and eons. Different forms of life and everything. So that's how we got entangled. The next two verses describe how we can get out. Tan Mayayato, this is the influence of Maya. Maya Devi, Krishna's bewildering energy. Buddha, one has to be intelligent. Abhajaitam, what's the remedy? Again, worship the Lord. In other words, come under the influence of the association of devotees, so you can begin worshiping the Lord again. Abhajaitam, and how? Bhakti-aikayation, with one-pointed pure devotional service. And Guru Devatatma, seeing one's preceptor as one's very life and soul. All of that is in that one verse. So the answer to the question, the austerity, and this is Rishabdev said, Tapo divyam putrakayena sattvam shudyed. And by this austerity, divine austerity, because Hiranyakashipu performed austerity, it wasn't Tapo divyam. He was in charge of the universe, he became very powerful. But the shudyed yasman, by that austerity, you purify your intelligence. And then the clincher is, Tapo divyam Shuddhye yasmat brahma saukyam tanantam. And then you can come to the position back in the spiritual world of enjoying unceasing, ever increasing happiness. Instead of this sense gratification, which is fit for the hogs. That's at the beginning of the verse. It's in your famous verse. So that's the answer is that by divine austerity, under the guidance of Krishna and as a representative of the Shastra, your whole being becomes purified, and that knowledge which has been there all along but's been buried, again comes out, and you resume your original pure state. So I think that's the basic answer.
That's a great answer, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
And the great thing is that the austerities, after a while, become sources of happiness.
Yeah.
Austerity becomes falsely common. But you got to do it early, you got all this stuff in that first.
Hare Krishna. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.